Hello, welcome to the GameCola podcast. My name is Michael Ridgway. Joining me today are Michael Gray, Colin Greenhalgh, and Nathaniel Hoover. Nathaniel will be joining us a little later. For now, guys, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Michael Gray. What?
Word. I'm Colin Greenhalgh. Wiki.
Wikipedia.
That's right, GameCola has gone all hip-hop. And lastly, you'll meet Nathaniel Tupac Hoover later. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about the darling of the Game Developers Conference 2009, OnLive. So for those of you who missed it, OnLive is this new service a company is offering where essentially what they will do is they will pipe games directly to your PC or home console, or to your TV, through little, like a DVR box almost. And it will, according to them, completely negate the need for discs, for consoles, for really high-end equipment. That will all be on their side. They will run the game on their system, on their servers, and then through your high-speed internet connection, they will ship it out to you where you will play it at home, and it will be wonderful and marvelous, and you just have to pay, a fee per game or whatever they're planning to charge in order to play the game. So, everyone was really, really excited about this, saying, oh, it's going to revolutionize the game industry. But of course, there are those that have their doubts. There are some that outright against it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, I think, Colin, you're pretty familiar with it by this point. What was your initial reaction to the news of OnLive?
Well, I'm not sure. It seems essentially almost too good to be true in some senses. And I think that essentially it is in certain cases, because I know for a fact that there are still people who own Xbox 360s and next-gen consoles and high-end computers. Typically not high-end computers in this case, but they own all these systems and want to play games by themselves and live where there's only dial-up available to them. And I think that's a huge factor in the fact that broadband is not as fast as people think it is anywhere other than, major cities. So I think that's one scenario in which case it fails. And then secondly, I think that, they've shown these fantastic tests and they look good, but first of all, like I said, they're already in a major city. They're probably close to wherever their server is. And then, they don't have, the 500 plus people connected to it to test how speeds would work with, larger amounts of people and that sort of situation. So, I don't know how trustworthy an initial test is so far. So, I guess you really have to wait to see how well it works that way. But, yeah.
That's a very good point. And just so everyone knows, Nathaniel is joining us now. Nathaniel, we are talking about OnLive right now, just kind of getting people's initial reactions and just jumping off about the service.
Thank you. I'm eating food. I'll join you guys in a little while.
Food is delicious, but thank you. Yeah, well, to go with what Colin was saying, it kind of reminds me of anybody who's been reading Penny Arcade for a while will remember a system marketed as the Phantom, and the basic idea between this was that it was a single console that could play any type of format of game. And they were at a lot of E3s, and supposedly they had very, very professional setups, and they even had like a working demo, and it seemed really cool. Except that when the time came to deliver the actual product, it never materialized. And that's certainly one way that this could go. I'm not saying it will, but it is I will agree with Colin in that it almost seems too good to be true. Michael, your thoughts?
Hey, I'm here. My thoughts. Yes, my thoughts exactly. OnLive. I'm a little confused about how this is working. Right? They give you a fancy DVR box, so you don't have to have a PS2 box.
Well, it depends. They're originally saying that they can hook it directly into your computer, and then they're just going to stream it off the internet into your computer. If you want to play games on your TV, they will give you a box, which you can, the internet basically then kind of goes through the box, goes into your TV, and you play the game off of the TV.
Yeah, so basically I'm talking about that setup. It's like, I don't really see how that would be different than like the PlayStation or the Wii or the Xbox, where it's like a box and you stick it to your TV and you play games off of the box on the TV. Yay!
All right, well that's a good point. That's something I wanted to address so people kind of realize what the difference is. The difference is that when you have a PS2 or an Xbox or a Nintendo, the processing is being done on your end. The processing of the game, it's being done within the console, and then that signal is being sent up to your TV, and you're playing it right there. The difference between that and OnLive is that the processing is being done, somewhere out in wherever, Colorado. Basically, it can be states away, it could be an entire country away, and then that gameplay is being shipped through the internet directly into your TV, and all that input that you put in to control it is going back through the internet, back to the OnLive main system wherever it is, and being and controlling the game that way, and then the reaction is being shipped back through the internet to you. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Is the internet fast enough to do that?
Well,
that's what my concern was.
Here's what they said.
Because I'm with what Colin said. I mean, the Game Developers Conference was in San Francisco, and that's just an hour away from where we keep the internet here in the Bay Area. You're laughing. There are actual buildings where there's a building.
No, I know. Yeah.
Door. They keep 2/3 of the internet.
Well, here's what they say.
They don't let me go near that building.
Here's what they say, and this comes from Engadget. It's that broadband connections, and this is a quote, broadband connections of 1.5 megabits per second, which are in 71% of U.S. homes, dials the image quality down to Wii levels. So the Nintendo Wii, not the greatest resolution, but at least 71% of people will be able to get games through OnLive at that quality. Whereas if you want to play it in HD, you're going to need a broadband connection that does 4 to 5 megabits per second. So according to their figures, most people will be able to play OnLive in this manner, at least at Wii graphic levels. If you want something like the PS3 or the Xbox 360, you're going to need a pretty fat-ass internet connection.
Well, see, it does seem possible.
Yes.
But it seems possible on a level of people who, A, don't care enough to own their own console. Because essentially, entirely what it comes down to, the major difference after whether or not it works, is whatever their business model is. Are you renting games? Do you purchase games and have them forever? Do you have to rent the box? Do you have to pay for a subscription and you get free games? I mean, that changes how it works in the long run. I think it's eventually going to just come down. It seems to me that their best business plan would be to essentially be like renting games out. So you pay maybe a monthly fee for the subscription and to have a box, and then you pick a game you want and you can play that or rent it for a small fee for a certain amount of time. Or I'm not entirely sure how that would work, but it seems like the people that will be using it are the people that would rent games. And essentially, you'd be able to rent games for consoles you don't own, rent games for the PC. Like a lot of titles that came out on the PC, you'd be able to play over this service, is what it seems to be promoting. Essentially, like quote unquote, saving the computer gaming industry because people can't afford to buy a rig that'll run Crysis engine. And if they do it over this video feed, then it would work for them. I don't know that that's necessarily true, especially if they're going to be running it at Wii quote-unquote level graphics.
Right.
And depending on how many people join their service, again. And if it's just a small amount of people that want this like renting experience, it might work. It might be a footnote in gaming, though, is what it is. And it's become this huge, blown out of proportion thing where, oh, this is going to save us, or oh, this is terrible, or blah blah blah. I think it's more for a smaller market than what people are doing. Because I'm not going to do this. I own all the 3 next-gen consoles and a fairly decent computer. Why would I want to pay monthly for games that I could just go out and buy?
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. It's gonna come down to a lot of who they try and market this to, and I think the service itself is going to be really tested. There's a lot that could go wrong with this. I think one of the primary concerns they have to have is lag. And say was it Blizzard, like the first few weeks or so of World of Warcraft, or it was something very popular that they had their online servers, but they did not properly anticipate the volume of players that they were going to get on those on the system, and the whole thing just kind of shut down, and there was nothing but lag there. And whereas with you have your home console, one of the benefits of that is that all that processing is on your end. You can play that whenever you want if you with whatever games you like. If you have to rely on the OnLive servers, and your internet connection, well, one or the other goes down, you're out of luck. And if you're playing a very, very fast-paced game, lag comes to an issue, because if say the if your internet connection is slow, or if the servers are buggy, well, not buggy per se, but they're overloaded. Suddenly, if you're playing, say, a fast-paced first-person shooter, well, that second of lag has killed you. And if you have enough frustrating stories like that, OnLive is probably going to be dead within a month if people realize, well, I can play a game, but I can't play it well. Those are my thoughts, at least.
Well, it comes down to, if everyone who owned a PlayStation 3 right now, even though that, that's technically smaller than the amount of people who own a Wii and a 360, if you took all of those people and you said, here, give me your PlayStation, I'm going to give you this OnLive box with all the games you've already got, so that's fine, you don't have to pay anything extra, here, we're just going to give you this and you're going to play it instead of your PlayStation 3. Think of how much processing power all those PlayStation 3s, the thousands of them we're creating, that has now gone to one server or render farm.
Yeah.
And the amount of, and essentially, people I think are thinking about it that oh, they're going to stream the whole game, so you're going to be downloading the game and playing it locally, but you're not. All you're doing is interacting with pictures that are getting sent to you. So that, the bandwidth's not a huge problem, but at that level it starts to, the processing power that it's going to take is amazing. You're going to have huge amounts of computers to just deal with that. And then on top of that, if all those people are streaming their images, that's going to take a lot. I mean, that's not as big a concern to me as the processing power, though. Because I mean, how's a company like this starting out with that amount of equipment? That's a lot of money that they'd have to put in behind that, and I don't know how that's going to work starting out.
Well, supposedly they have some pretty big names behind this. The CEO is Steve Perlman. I'm not too familiar with him, but apparently he is well known for his work with QuickTime and Web TV. One of the guys working for them is Eidos's former CEO. Another guy is the key developer behind Netscape and the founder of Mozilla. I mean, the list goes on and on. You sound like there's a lot of guys behind it who've been in a lot of smart developments. A lot of things that went on to have done pretty well. But at the same time, this is. I mean, there's a difference between making a media player or a browser, and then saying, well, I'm going to completely redesign the way the video game industry does business, or the way digital entertainment is delivered to the consumer.
Yay! Michael Ridgway does a lot of talking to himself in this episode. Everybody.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. He's describing stuff and what he feels about it. I mean, I didn't know those people were behind it. I don't think that makes it any less of a daunting challenge.
No. I completely agree. I'm trying not to come down just have an entire. I'm trying not to. Is there? No, there's no women.
They're
there.
silly looking.
I thought I saw a Charlize
Yes.
there, but no, it's a Charlie. I'm just trying not to have. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Big guy.
I'm just trying not to have the entire episode, come out saying like, well, this is about OnLive and what it means to the gaming industry, and then just have it be, us ripping on OnLive for half an hour. I'm trying to say, there are talented people behind it.
And I don't mean to discredit them in what they're doing. If they can do it, kudos. I think it is possible on a specific scale, marketed to a specific amount of people. I don't think it's going to revolutionize the game industry. I don't think it's going to change much, at least in the early stages, because I don't think it's going to be for a large amount of people. I think it's going to be rather limited.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it's possible, and I didn't see the demo, so I can't say much. The only way I saw the demo was streaming video over the internet to me, so it's kind of like, I don't know, it's gonna cause a rift in the time dimensions and fuck everything up because I'm watching video streamed over video. But I don't think it's a negative thing. I think that it's just I don't know. It's very ambitious, and
it is.
I think it's going to take time for people to catch on, if at all.
Yeah. It's going to take time for them to do it right. And again, I think one of their biggest the biggest pitfalls in front of them is, maybe trying to rush it. They're saying they're going to have they're going to launch it in I think September 2009. Sorry, I'm looking. The service is planned for release in the winter of 2009. So by the end of this year, they're saying they're going to release it. And if that's enough time for them to resolve the issues with getting with providing proper processing power, because Colin, you're right. If you gotta have, if you have a bunch of PS3 people who say, okay, well, I want this service. I don't want to have to worry about all my hardware over here. I'm going to pay you guys to provide me this service now, and then they have to account for however many PS3s. Let's say let's say for generous sakes that 10,000 people
12.
eventually sign up.
Whoa. That's more than I thought.
Well, 10,000 is a reasonable number here in America as far as gamers go, I would think. I mean, we're a nation of 300 million people.
No, that's a pretty decent estimate.
Yeah. 10,000 units worth of 2,000 consumers worth of PS3 processing power. I'll try saying that 5 times fast. All in one place. I mean, I don't know if it's all going to be in one place, but trying to have that all online, that's a lot of responsibility on their part.
But
and
do we know if they're going to be doing? Oh, you can talk.
No, I was going to say if they mess it up, they're probably going to be done. I mean, someone might come along, in 10 years or so, and try it again, and by then the technology might be at a point where they're going to succeed with flying colors. But if they rush it out too fast, if they delay it for too long, they're going to be dead in the water. And it almost seems like because OnLive was so huge a thing at the Game Developers Conference, and it's becoming so huge a thing, it almost seems like there's nowhere to go but down. They've set up such high expectations for themselves that if it's anything less than playing a perfectly played game over the internet, people are going to look at it and say, well, this is crap.
I sort of agree, but I think a lot of people have already formed a negative opinion of it, just being like, "Oh, this is never going to work," and they might be right. And if that's true, then I guess they won't care that much when it happens. But I think too, I guess if you really think about it, and if it does catch on, and it does work well, it somewhat threatens the video game industry, in the sense of sales, at least, because, especially for large production studios, if people have access to independent titles really easily, like someone who has a nice computer does, or is more attached to a computer gaming system where they've already had access to independent games for a long time, that becomes widespread. I think that's not a bad thing. I think independent developers should be able to have that access to mainstream people who want to sit in front of their TV and play games kind of income. But I think it also goes to show that it's going to change the way games are created. If this is such a huge thing that it is, just covers everyone who is a gamer. There's not going to be any console war in that sense, because essentially everything will be developed to play on a PC, because that's what they're going to be doing. That changes, game economy. That changes a lot of things, especially with two of the major consoles being developed by companies that aren't focused entirely on gaming. That's entirely guessing into the future, nothing to do with whether or not OnLive will work, because that has to be a very successful future. Very successful.
Yeah, apparently a lot of video game companies have already signed up to have their games on OnLive, including, excuse me while I...
It's mostly EA, it looked like.
Yeah, EA, but they've also got Take-Two, they've got Atari, they've got Eidos, they've got Codemasters, they've got THQ, they've got a lot of people on there. And just provide
You'll notice, too, that's a lot of... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, those are a lot of computer developers. EA, not in particular, but
right.
A lot of those other ones are mainly focused on computer games, which I'm just noticing.
Yeah, but no, to address what you said about being bad for some aspects of the uh, video game industry, some people are saying it could also be a godsend for some of them because of the problem of piracy, and it seems like it would almost eliminate it because you're taking the hardware and the downloadable files for the game out of the hands of the consumer, and you've essentially got a hold on them at this central processing location. So it's going to be a lot harder for people to get a hold of working files for these games. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, because let's face it, it's going to happen on the internet eventually, but it's going to hurt. It's going to sort of. It may help the video game companies in that regard, and also, if their games are only available through OnLive, monopoly illusions aside, it's really going to hurt companies like GameFly and GameStop, where they either rent or they sell and resell these games. And again, the game is just available from one source online. I imagine each game may be cheaper because they don't have to worry about a lot of packaging costs. But at the same time, you're going to see companies like GameFly probably really hurt by it because they no longer have a physical game to ship out to you. Same thing with GameTap. They no longer have the not that they do too many new games, but they're not going to have these files to be able to give to you. And GameStop, well, they're just going to be boned altogether if it's completely digital.
Well, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't either. I hate GameStop.
But I mean, too, that's
Yeah.
yeah, GameStop sucks.
Yes, they
I think too, you're speculating very hard on the whatever business model they're going to set up, because
fair.
I mean, if they're just renting games, people are still going to want to buy them, to own them, to have them forever, whether or not they want the service. I think also it's a very large leap to assume that anything will be solely attached to this OnLive. I think if people are making games for it, they're making games for OnLive that will work on other consoles as well.
That's something
because
I hadn't thought of.
the console industry, selling the actual box, is something that's very important to companies like Sony and Microsoft.
Well, see, I have to wonder about that because I hear that Microsoft and Sony, take a bath on every box they sell.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, is that they lose money on selling their console, but they make up for it in the games that they sell for their console. Mm-hmm. I mean, a large part of the money that you're paying to buy the disc goes to Microsoft, and especially with downloadable content, it's online subscriptions, everything like that. They need that. So it's tough.
Yeah.
And I can imagine them fighting for that.
Yeah.
And I think too that's also, I mean, you jumped to it being very successful in that sense, and I mean that's a long way off, if at all. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's lots of scenarios where it changes things, and I don't know. It's hard to speculate about that, and depending on what it does and how popular it is, it can change at least the business end of the industry. I don't think it's going to change how games are made. If anything, it opens up a new area for, like I said, independent gamers or independent developers to showcase their creations to an audience that just likes to sit in front of their TV,
Mm.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Nathaniel Hoover.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm back, so I can sit here quietly, as I've been doing, because I don't have anything useful to participate with. But carry on.
Yes, quite.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
Oh, yes.
Well, I had something insightful to say, but Nathaniel completely threw me off, so I've got nothing.
Success!
What was I going to say? Shoot.
We were talking about independent developers. We were talking about...
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Another point I wanted to bring up is that it seems like their first target is going to be the PC, the PC gamers. And one of my concerns is that I'm a huge fan of playing user-created content. And unless they are mindful enough to set up some sort of private user server where user content server where they can like log on and create their modules. I mean, I love playing Neverwinter Nights 2. The user created modules. The user created content for Fallout 3 has sort of revived the game for me after they fucked it up. But I'm rather worried that OnLive is going to completely kill that stuff because it's not going to. People aren't going to have the physical game, the files there, I forget the acronym for.
Ooh,
the
that's
typical
a big
acronym
issue. How are you going to be able to save your game if you're not saving it on your computer?
Well, one would assume that they have,
a password system?
Yeah, like you would sign in and they have they have allocated space for you where you can save your games. I mean, that seems like a pretty obvious thing they need to do. It's not like you can log on and it's like, okay, you're going to play Final Fantasy 13. And 20 hours later, well, that was Final Fantasy 13. See ya. But I want to save my game. See ya. But my game. See ya. And it'll sound exactly like that. So it seems like a pretty obvious thing they're going to need to do. I mean, I'd be very, very, very surprised if they didn't find out some way to handle that. That would be very, very, very silly of them. But yeah, I'm very concerned for user created content. So I do not want to see the death of all my text or texture packs and my skins and my map packs and my downloadable modules and all that stuff.
Well, that comes down to, again, who they market to. I mean, if they're marketing to the PC crowd, they're marketing to the wrong people. Because people who PC game have already bought expensive computers,
Yeah.
And I think that's a bad decision. And then if you're marketing to the people who own consoles, I think they're already in the mindset to want to own a console and to want to own a physical game. And I think that's going to be hard to shake from people. The PC crowd is definitely the consumers that are already in the mindset of, oh, I don't need a box, I can just download it and have it on an account, and that's fine with me. But to press that onto a console crowd, I think you're expecting a lot.
Well, if I may, I perceive this to be, at least primarily from my perspective, to be for people who like to play PC games but can't afford the high-end systems. So it might be a different demographic than just straight-up PC gamers or straight-up console gamers. It could be the people who want to play, just can't afford the shiny graphics cards and all of the fancy accoutrements that go with that.
I agree. I think I think the people that they are marketing to are the people that don't want to own a console and don't want to spend money on an expensive computer, and that again comes down to their business model on how well they do it. Because if they do it correctly, people will be able to play the games for low cost without having to, pay out of the ass for a console or for a a computer, because I mean that initial investment of being able to spend $60 on a game, that's a lot of money, and I think that people have been straying away from that recently. But that's, again, their business model, and I'm not entirely sure how they're going to be doing that. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Interesting. Okay.
What you doing, Michael?
I'm just reading the OnLive site. I'm wondering
Michael,
how
we're doing a podcast right now. You can't be doing other things. No multitasking.
I'm just wondering now. I'm just wondering how on earth they're going to connect the controller to Mr. PC.
Well,
It's going to have a USB. How's it going to connect to the TV then?
Well, if it's a TV, I mean, you probably just have an HDMI cable.
Yay.
High definition Monkey Island?
Yes, exactly.
They make HDMI cables now? Yes.
Okay,
Okay, never mind. That was my only question.
I honestly, I think probably the connection to your TV and the connection at home stuff. I mean, if it's just on the PC, you can configure a controller or your keyboard pretty easily just to handle that stuff. I think the main issue facing them is going to be the connection and the processing on their side. And speaking of the connection, I mean, that's going to be another big issue. Essentially, what is going to happen, say, if your internet cuts out or cuts. There's a lot of internet connections. Will just kind of cut out for a second. You don't really notice it because you're surfing on the internet. But if you are, say, playing a game for a good couple of hours at a time, what's going to happen to your game if you have, a second interruption? And what's going to happen to, everyone's games if they're having a lot of, say, 10 people in the neighborhood or 20 people in the neighborhood are playing games over OnLive? What's going to happen to their connections? I mean, I don't really know too many people who have really tested the limits of their internet connection, as it were. I mean, I know a lot of people who download, a lot of stuff from BitTorrent via the internet, but it's not.
Oh my goodness, it's so slow. That's what I don't think. I think the
Right.
internet companies are lying to us about how fast they can go.
Oh, well, they are. I mean, about
Well,
the
it all depends
Comcast
your
capping
location.
thing.
Oh, I'm talking about Wait, what?
Comcast,
I'm confused.
capping. Comcast will cap internet, internet usage, and just basically, it will cap it lower than the rate you're paying for. Well, they're Comcast. They're kind of evil.
I'm concerned about whatever this thing is, AT&T or Nextel, talking about on the East Coast, trying to charge people by how much internet they're using. So let's say, like, you downloaded 50 gazillion gigabytes, they're going to charge you more than the person who used 30 billion gigabytes. That seems mean. Yes.
Yeah, well, the cable companies are kind of evil. At least I think they are, but apologies for anyone at GameCola who works for the cable companies and the phone companies and stuff like that, but
Or any one of our audience members, perhaps?
oh no, screw them.
One of them, yes.
Well, you see, our audience members can't download our episodes because our episodes are too large for them, and they're working for the cable companies.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
I mean,
problem solved. I mean, that's basically that's my fear for this OnLive, is that they're going to be destroyed by the cable companies being mean.
that is a real possibility.
And that makes me sad. I don't like the cable companies.
Welcome to the club.
Well, here's a big question. I don't know if it's been asked yet, if I tuned in a little too late for this, but extending this idea way to the future where we've got flying cars and all our energy problems are solved, and all of a sudden we don't have GameStop anymore. We don't have brick-and-mortar stores where we go in to buy games, and everything is done on, let's say, OnLive, or it's downloadable content like they have on all of the modern systems right now. And what happens when something like OnLive is undead? It just disappears off the face of the earth, and you've got 50 games that you can only play with the service active that just disappears. Does that kind of gaming just end altogether? What kind of things happen?
Good question.
Well, I mean, that comes down again to their business model. I mean, if you're renting games and you're paying for them monthly, that's not going to be a big deal because you're paying a small amount for a game monthly. If it's like Steam, and people have that fear of, it's going to disappear, and all the games that I've purchased in full and can play, and I'm not renting, and I paid the full amount for, if that disappeared, what would I do? I think that's a different fear, and I don't think you can start that way, not the way that they're doing this. I mean, with Steam, you purchase the game and you download it, and you have the files locally on your system. So if Steam exploded, there would be a way for them to activate the products that you have. And then Steam would go away and you would just have the products and you would have to make sure you don't delete them, or they'd figure that out. If OnLive you were paying for a full game and OnLive went away, I think that would be a lot harder because you've paid for a game that you don't have the specifications to play without OnLive. So I don't think that they could do it that way. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
So you think they're going to have
that makes sense.
So you think they're going to have to give people the option to download things onto their home machine?
No, I think they're going to have to not give them the option of purchasing a game in full. I think the service is going to be entirely rent-based, at least to begin with, unless, I mean, I don't know, I can't picture a way to make this you pay for the full game and then it's your game, because it's not your game, because you're playing it on another console. That doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think that they could do that, at least in my mind.
Fair.
Is there any part of this topic we haven't probed the depths of?
Well, there's one thing I wanted to ask is if OnLive goes belly up, or if it succeeds, what do you think the next step is?
World domination.
World domination.
Okay,
all right.
But after that.
I think the next step is going to be making it so I can play Oregon Trail on my computer again.
You can play Oregon Trail on your computer.
I can?
No, the specs aren't good enough for him, I guess.
He's going to have to get online for that.
But Michael Gray, talk to me later. I'll help you play Oregon Trail on your computer.
You mean on DOSBox? Well, it's just because I switched to Vista, so none of it's working anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's DOSBox is fine, but if you
Are you having trouble putting in that huge floppy disk?
Yeah, my floppy disk doesn't fit in my laptop anymore. I don't know.
That's what she said.
You have your Apple II disk drive hooked up to your desktop?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I was just thinking about Oregon Trail, and I don't think anybody has that on like the Virtual Console or the 360, whatever those guys have.
There's a version for the iPhone, and I believe there's many, many different Flash versions that you can just play on the internet.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
What were you about to say? The pretty cost?
Cost effective. Yes, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, but does anyone have any
So
other
the future of
ideas
OnLive, right?
Yeah, it's where it might be going.
Well, I think if they're successful, they might have some sort of a hold on that section of the market for a while. But I really doubt that it's the kind of thing, just because of how different it is from the gaming model we all know and love. I feel like it's probably going to take a little while before it really explodes, or before other people see a need to compete with them or tweak or adjust. Because I think there's enough problems to overcome, enough things to make sure that work out right for long enough that them just getting on their feet to the point where they can be successful will probably take a while. So I think it's this is just my uninformed opinion, but I feel like it'll probably take some time before they really have an impact on the greater gaming market.
That's fair, but
right. I mean, if at all, too.
Yeah, but it's funny because they've got this release date of winter 2009, and does anyone think they're going to make that?
I think that's reasonable. I mean, I think they have to release a lot more information before then, because it's still very, it's kind of in the dark. I mean, we see what it's supposed to do, we see what it's supposed to look like, but I mean, that's all we've seen. I mean, those aren't the important things. The important things are, will it work under stress, and what's it going to cost? Because, I mean, in the long run, to the consumer, that's what's important,
Well, I expect with something that you can always fix, adapt, switch up on, it's not like they're releasing one console once it's out, that's it, we can't play with it anymore unless we, break into your house at night and tinker with the wiring. So I feel like it's something that as long as it's functional, they can release it in smaller doses. Say you sign up for some sort of special pass and they only give out, 5,000 passes to start to make sure that the system can handle everything and then boost their way up. Or maybe they release it if they're running a little bit behind and it's still a bit buggy, but they say, we're constantly improving it, we're looking for your feedback, and then use that as an excuse to continue working on it after they've released it.
Right. If you guys are interested, I was looking at the website, and there is a beta sign-up for the summer. I don't know how open it's going to be, but, I mean, it's worth signing up for if you're interested in it. I'd imagine they're going to stress test the hell out of it, so I'd imagine they're going to get as much people on it as they can. And I'm sure it's only going to be the PC version of it, not necessarily like them sending you the box for your TV. But I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah. That's an important point to note. Colin, do you want to give the address for that website really quick?
OnLive.com.
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 OnLive.com. All one word. And under their game service, there's an option for beta testing. Or actually, I think it's even in the top bar as well. You can sign up. I think another point I was going to make was, I mean, you see all these big name game companies, they have signed on for it, and what Nathaniel was saying about how it's going to take time and support and stuff like that is it's probably not costing these game companies anything. They have nothing to lose, and OnLive needs them more than they need OnLive, because they're still going to be making consoles, at least for the next generation. This type of gaming is not going to catch on for another console to not come out in the next couple years. I think that's still something that's very important to Sony and Microsoft and potentially Nintendo. So I think that the company that's putting it together, the OnLive, has a lot at stake and is risking a lot with this. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And I can imagine them doing something like Nathaniel was saying with the passes to kind of limit their initial amount of signing up. And potentially even like, I don't know, playing WoW, if you log onto a server that's full, you get a queue time, and they might even have something like that. Which kind of defeats the purpose of instant streaming gaming, but I mean, it's something that they could easily set up, and that I think people would accept, at least in their initial stages.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, now that we've all weighed in.
Yay, we've weighed in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty tapped on the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to ask Michael Gray. I mean, you don't play a lot of recent games, I'd imagine, because you don't own the consoles, right? Is this something you would be interested in if it was affordable and worked for you?
Nah, probably not. I don't know.
I'm just curious. I mean, I think it's important to note that, like, if you were a gamer and you already own a decent amount of the consoles, you don't have any interest in paying more money for, you could just go out and rent a game for that console. You don't need to pay for a subscription for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it'd be interesting. I was just wondering from a point of view of someone who doesn't necessarily own a high-end PC or a PlayStation 3, something like that.
But just for me specifically, I just need to go back and I've got 50,000 old games to play before I can start worrying about new games.
That's fine, too. I mean, not being interested in the games that they're offering is an entirely valid point.
Well, I'm sort of in the same boat as Michael as well, because I only just got a Wii this year, and I've been a strictly Nintendo guy my entire life. So I don't have any of the newer consoles aside from the Wii, and the only two games I have for it are Mega Man 9 and Metroid Prime 3, which I'm going to get into, I swear. And my gaming PC is perfectly suitable for any game that was released in 2001 or before, but after that I need to start toning things down more and more. So it plays Half-Life 2, but that's about as far as it'll go. But this is the kind of thing that it's an interesting concept, but it's definitely not for me, because I was so annoyed that I had to download Mega Man 9 that I couldn't have a disc or a cartridge of it, no hard copy. Steam bothers the heck out of me because I don't want to have to rely on some other service every time I want to play a game, especially when my internet connection was really lousy. It took me forever to start playing anything, and especially if I had to reset for any reason. So I like to have everything the way it was back in 1985. Just have your own hard copy, play it whenever, don't worry about any other technology issues, that's it.
And that really speaks to the state of American consumerism, is that people like to have physical copies of whatever they have so they can prove that they actually bought something and have something.
Well, I think that's changing rapidly. I mean, people already accept iTunes in a huge way. And I mean, personally, that's something I don't even enjoy. I'd rather own a CD than download music, even though it's far much more of a hassle, having it between different computers and having a physical CD and taking care of it even. So I think...
the difference with music, I think, is that you can burn it to a CD, so it's almost as good as if you'd had the CD to begin with, purchasing it from the store. And you can make all sorts of backups on the computer. I feel far more comfortable downloading some game for the computer that I know I can have my own security features, my own virus scans, my own infinite backup copies on all sorts of different rereadable multimedia, whatever. Whereas with things like the Wii or anything else that you can download content for, maybe it's just that I don't know as much about the backup options, but I feel much more limited in that. I'm a control freak. I like to have control over everything that I quote unquote own, even if I don't have a tangible copy of it.
I agree with that. I can understand that too. I mean, personally, I too would rather go out and purchase a copy of even like a computer game, so that I can have a box to put it on my shelf. Not even necessarily because I want to brag about owning a game, but because I like the box art. But I think it's interesting to see that this adapt, and I mean, it is PC users that seem to be catching on to it quicker than console users, and I think that's going to be a hard sell for them, is to get console users to step away from having a console and having, a wall covered in game boxes.
And I've just got a question for everyone. Hold on a second, let me try to think of the question, how to state it. No, I've got a question. Because I posted about it in the GameCola blog, does anybody else have the ability to get console games through the library system?
Yeah. Well, it's where I used to live. They had you could rent a game from the library or borrow it. I never actually did it myself, but yes, they have that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking, because for me, that's what I'm doing now, is I just got a PS2, and it's like, wow, my library has 100 or so PS2 games.
Nice.
I can just pick it out from the library without having to pay for any games or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
That's really fancy. Yeah, so I'm just thinking that's a pretty good deal, and I'm going to stick with that rather than, I guess, try out OnLive.
Nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, so I was just wondering if that's the case for everybody, or it's just here because I'm in the Bay Area.
No, I think it's becoming more popular. I don't know too many libraries that do it, but I've certainly seen them.
I think you're going to be. That's going to be farther behind too. You're just getting PS2 games. It's not like you're going to see any cutting edge 360 or PS3 games, and you're also probably going to be limited to. They're probably not going to give out M-rated games at the library. I'd imagine. I'm not sure.
That's debatable. They had like the Lego Indiana Jones game. They had it when it came out. It depends on the sort of games, or it really just depends on the game. I'm not sure. Whatever.
Hey, how much time do we have left on this podcast?
6 hours.
6 hours. All right. I don't need to sleep or eat.
Yeah, well, I figured we
Ever.
could wrap. We could.
So you just did eat.
I eat more than once.
Oh.
And here I assume Nathaniel was like a camel or a snake or something like that. Two radically different animals, I know, but.
Yes.
I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up. I mean, I've pretty much said all I wanted to say about OnLive, and I think we had a good discussion here.
All right, then the final question is, if OnLive came out and was affordable, would you purchase it?
I would wait for
Negatory.
reviews.
Yeah, again for me, no.
No.
So you guys really aren't that excited about it?
I would be willing to
Yes.
give it a shot myself.
It'll
If
be
it
interesting
was-
to see, but I'll leave it to everybody else.
If it was free to try for the first month, would you try it?
Yes.
Probably not.
Really?
Really? No, I mean, unless there was a game there that I was absolutely rabid over that was not being released on any other platform. If I just had to play it, yeah, sure, I'd try it out. But it's the gateway. You stick yourself in there for just a little bit, and then you say, oh, well, this isn't so bad. I can afford paying whatever it is when they start to charge you, and then you get hooked and you get caught, and they never let you go. So I think I'd stay out.
Oh.
That's fair.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yay. It's a gateway drug, yes.
I think if
So there you go.
were if it was a free trial like a month long, I'd probably give it a shot. I'd check out the other reviews. I mean, I don't think it would be too bad of a gateway drug with me because I tend to be a hard ass about these things, and I really really hate paying for things.
Well, I tend to be that way.
Yeah.
I was exaggerating a bit, but
Yeah.
still the idea of it being there. That
No, that's
if
fair.
I start to play one game on there, and then a little while down the road they release another one, so I would sort of have to make my choice between: am I going to be sticking with all of the consoles that I know that I can continue to play hard copy games on, or am I just going to throw myself totally into this with all of the new OnLive exclusive games?
Yeah, I don't think I could throw myself in there. But if they were to get like exclusive games and they were good games and they were things I couldn't play on my consoles, I would have to seriously consider the service.
Yeah, if they had Oregon Trail 3,
Oregon
that could
harder.
be awesome. Yes. Oh, I want to play Oregon Trail on my Wii. The best part of the game was shooting animals, and doing that with your Wiimote would be fun.
And dysentery.
Take that, Buffalo.
I'm sorry, I always died of dysentery. And of course, when you're 8 years old and you see you died of dysentery, you're like, hee hee, I died from the pooping disease.
Yes.
Anyway.
I don't know. That's another question. Did people actually beat Oregon Trail? I always beat it all the time, but apparently it's
I never
difficult.
Never.
I've beaten it before once or twice.
Yep.
Oh.
Meager rations all the way.
Yeah.
Well, Colin, what would you do in the same? Getting back to OnLive, what would you do under the circumstances?
If it was a free first month, of course I'd give it a try. I mean, I'd like to think I have the willpower enough to stop if it was corrupting my soul. But even if it was to pay for the first month, maybe if they offered a discount, I'd definitely like to try it out. Just for curiosity's sake.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, there are limitations on to how much I would pay for this. If it's going to cost me as much as a game, I'd probably go out and buy a game, you know?
Fair.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, I guess we can wrap it up. That's it for the GameCola podcast, folks. I think we had a really good discussion about OnLive today. I certainly encourage people to look up more about it if you're interested, and go ahead and check out their the beta they have coming up. And if anybody gets in and wants to let us know what it's like, by all means, give us a buzz at GameCola. This has been Mike Ridgway.
I smell a guest review.
Oh yeah, guest review. Get you your own little spotlight. Paul friends who can cut you in on some of that fat GameCola money. And by fat,
we're making lots of money with those ads.
Well, by fat GameCola money, I mean that he gets paid in lard by Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, if you've got some,
we get more money if people click the ads, but it's against the rules for us to tell people to click the ads.
Is it? Huh.
That's nice.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I've been doing for my Nancy Drew blog. Is it's like I tell people to. I can't outright tell people to click the ads, but if I say something like I'll get more money if people click the ads, that's okay.
That's funny.
So I got 28 clicks yesterday. That equals $5. I'm rich.
Yeah, that's it for the GameCola podcast. This has been Michael Ridgway. Someone say their name.
Their name.
Ha ha ha.
Oh. Anyways, I'm Nathaniel Hoover.
I'm Michael Gray.
And this is Colin Greenhalgh.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.